Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and we are the news division of United Network. We are also part of CARE, which stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. And as a news organization, our mission is to bring you the real news. What is really happening on our planet? What's really going on in our own communities? Because there's a lot of info out there, and a lot of it it's kind of misleading, right? It's sending you off in a different direction. There's still a lot of narratives out there, and it's hard to know who to trust. And we hope to become that source of information for you. And we do that through a lot of different content that we put out throughout the week. That includes our field messenger reports, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in just a bit. Our news team puts together stories that are a little bit more in depth. And those are some headlines that you may have seen in the news. We just try to take it a little further. And then we have updates from the Global Intelligence Agency, the GIA report, as we call it, about what's really happening in this battle of good versus evil that is unfolding here on our planet right now. So lots of good stuff to get to. If you want more information about our group and what we do, you can visit our website at unitednetwork.earth. This podcast is a week in review show. So I pick out our top stories that we do, and I give you an overview of the story. Sometimes I play some sound bites, and it's all about, I know you guys have busy schedules, especially right now, right? The holiday seasons are usually a little crazy, and you may not have time to follow everything that we're doing. So this is a great way to get caught up on anything that you may have missed. And, ask questions. We always encourage you guys, don't just assume, that all the information is in a single report. Go back, do your own research, think critically about any information that's given to you, whether that is through us here at UNN or other content you're consuming online, mainstream media, whatever it is. And when things start to click for you, right, it's like putting a big puzzle together. You got a piece over here and a piece over there, and suddenly you're like, I think this piece goes with this one. When you start to add everything up, we encourage you guys to share what you've learned with other people. This is going to get them thinking, even if they're not at the same stage you are on your journey. You may be that person, and I talked about this last week. You may be that person that the person that you're trying to talk to remembers down the road when they are ready to talk about this stuff, right? You may be that person for them. So you just never know how you can help in other people's journeys. So share what you know with other people. All right, so let's get to it. Here are the rundown of stories you may have missed this week on UNN. All right, so let's kick things off with our field messengers. Now, field messengers are really what UNN is all about. It's not about myself or Kim or Kaylin getting on the news and just telling you what's going on, because we've had this our whole lives. I went to school for journalism. I was taught by a professor how to give the news to people, but I don't necessarily think that's where we're headed. I think it's you guys that are supposed to give the news to people because you care about what's happening in your communities. And you want to find out what's going on, and then you want to share that with other people. And the best way to do that, to get away from people, passing down these different narratives and really throwing us all off course, the best way to get away from that is for you to share what's going on. And when you do that, we like to call those people field messengers. And it's real easy to do. We have a whole production team that is here to help you with your stories. You don't have to know anything about editing. You just need to get the information for us. And then we've got a team that can help you put your story together. And then we put it up on the news and you get all the credit, which is pretty awesome. Okay. So if you want to know more about that, again, visit our website. We've got a whole section for field messengers. We've got a Telegram group where you can ask questions and get feedback on your stories. We even have a field messenger app that is available in the iTunes. It's not iTunes, is it? I'm totally dating myself. I was like, what is that thing called? Apple Music? Whatever. It's not the music thing, right? It's the App Store. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's been a long day. So all the Apple stuff, go to the App Store and also Google. Okay. So we've got, all forms covered here, and it makes it really easy, honestly, to create your stories and to get them over to our team so they can put them together for you. So let's talk about our stories this week. We have a bunch of stories, actually, that are about people coming together to support people who are a little bit more food insecure and to help people in their region. And that's what this first story is all about. So Vitrice from Los Angeles, of course, in the U.S., she's actually a volunteer for a group, and I believe it's called Food Cycle LA. So she took a camera along when she was doing her volunteering, and she talks to some of the owners. These people distribute food for more than 2,000 families each week. I believe they're open one day a week, so they're very busy. I think they go to some different locations. This was founded in 2019, and it's just an amazing resource for the community, right? It's people helping people. Another food-related story, but this time on the other side of the planet in Romania. And of course, our field messenger, Monica, she's kind of our roving reporter out in Romania. And this was really a vision by Father Banu. I think that's how you pronounce it. He's done incredible things in the community. He's associated with a church over there, but then he had this building that was dedicated to women and children and helping them get back up on their feet. And this is really a project. It's kind of a temporary project. It's not going to be necessarily ongoing, but they're starting it now. It's going to be going through May, and it is a project where people can donate food. They're not asking for monetary donations, but their goal is to feed 15,000 people. And it's really special. Again, a vision that this father had for his community. And it seems to be what this guy dreams up tends to happen, which is pretty cool. All right, Amy out of New Jersey talks about a Catholic charity over there. She talks with Scott, who is part of the Catholic Charities Diocese of Paterson, and he talks about how SNAP benefits, right? So that is the money that people could get as part, it's a government program here in the U.S. And during the government shutdown, that was a program that was in question, and a lot of people rely on that program. And this is a story really about how something like that has this trickle-down effect, and how other charities were preparing to have to step in because there were just so many unanswered questions as to what was going on with SNAP. And I love this question that Amy asked, because she's like, okay, well, what if the government isn't able to do this because this particular food pantry is reliant on getting, quite a bit of food from the government and their different charities and things like that. And I love what this guy said. He says, I believe people are good. And I love that, right? Because even though, we're talking about governments and support from the government, we've said this a million times, it is going to come down to us helping one another. And I think he's right. People are good. We've got a lot of stories this week of people doing incredible things and just reaching out and helping each other. And I think we're learning a lot about that. I think we're learning a lot about ourselves as humans, right? Or in the GIA report, we would say as Homo sapiens. Because humans and Homo sapiens are actually two different things. So it's all about supporting each other, right? And I just love that quote. Wanted to share it with you guys. All right, Annette out of British Columbia, which is part of Canada, takes us on an amazing walk through this area. She's going on, it's still autumn, believe it or not, at least for another day or so. So she goes on this beautiful autumn walk, and it's in Flood Falls, which is a hidden spot in Hope, British Columbia. It is incredible. Guys, there's no way I can do this story justice. You're just going to have to watch the video, take a couple deep breaths in, picture yourself there with Annette and her dog, and, there's beautiful waterfalls, and the leaves are falling, and there are these gorgeous colors, and there's rocks with all this moss on it, and you are just surrounded by nature. A beautiful place to hang out. All right, Amy out of New Jersey is back with another story about Barnegat Bay. And I believe she traveled there. I'm not sure if she just went there for the day, but this is an area, and she gives us a little bit of history because there's a lagoon there. It was actually known for being really good in salt production for a while. There's something about how the lagoon interacts, the water, and they were able to extract salt from it at least for a period of time. I don't think they really do it much anymore. The area is known for shipbuilding. There was even a battle there during the Revolutionary War. So yeah, we get a little bit of history of Barnegat Bay and what it's all about. Sophia from California, another state in the U.S., takes us to a very interesting ceremony. I guess I'll call it a ceremony. She calls it a celebration as well for Guru Purnima. And this was in San Jose, California. It is a cultural event. It's a spiritual event. And it shows how ancient traditions continue to inspire modern communities. So what we saw in the video was her walk into this room, and it looked like there was kind of a live feed coming in. There was some stuff going on in front, but there was quite a bit of people there, right? So if you were sitting in the back, you really couldn't see, but there was kind of, I'll just call him a guru because I don't know what else to call him, walks up to the front and does a little bit of a presentation. And according to Sophia, the presentation was about letting go of worries and how to seek inner peace within yourself. I think that's something that we can all appreciate. Again, especially this time of year, things can get a little crazy. And it's just nice to kind of maybe step out and learn a little bit more about culture in various areas, right? This was and is a ceremony that is done commonly in India. So it's kind of fun to learn about what other people and other cultures do. Manuela out of Hawaii. Again, we got another food story, guys. So 3 days before SNAP benefits return to the island of Hawaii after the whole government shutdown thing, the island's main food bank, which is they do this program called Ohana Drops, and they give groceries to families and individuals who lost access to those SNAP benefits. And so she takes us, kind of around to see how they do everything that they do. She said it is very organized, and it reminded her of how powerful we are when we act as one, which is beautiful. Emma out of Spain takes us to a kite festival in Fuerteventura, Spain. It is the 38th international, so multiple places, multiple countries represented. And it's a week-long event, so we just got to see a little snippet of it, but there's incredible kites that they fly, there's workshops, there's music. She says even some drone racing goes on. Pretty interesting. Most video that we got a chance to see are the actual kites. So really, really creative kites. There were a lot of cartoon characters. I saw a couple astronauts, which I don't know how they create these kites. That's pretty amazing. Lots of sea creatures. I even saw a string of gummy bears. So, I mean, how creative can you be, right? She says that many of these kites are actually handmade, and the materials can be very expensive, right? So these people really do put a lot of thought and effort into coming together and celebrating this in Fuerteventura. All right, Annette out of British Columbia. We've already had one story from Annette. See, we've got repeat field messengers, which I think is really awesome. People that are just really dedicated. We love to see that. So Annette has another story out of Canada about food bank support, and this is out of Fraser Valley. What's interesting about this story is that this story is known for its agriculture, right? So it's basically exporting agriculture to other areas, yet the community itself is really struggling. There are rising demand, really, for food for the people in the area, which kind of sounds crazy because the area is known for agriculture, right? But she takes us inside this place that's focused on community services and volunteers. They run a food bank. There's a soup kitchen, a lunch program, and even a free store for clothing and essentials. And our final story is from Cynthia out of Washington State. So not DC, but the actual state in the U.S. And this was a bit of a breaking news story. The team and I, we had to kind of scramble to get stuff edited and get it out for this week. But it was a very important, more newsy kind of report because their area has had record-breaking rainfall and unseasonably warm temperatures, which have brought more than 20 inches of rain. And I think she said that was within 8 days. I mean, that's a lot of rain, right? But she also shows us how the area is kind of prepped for this. They actually have a wall to protect the main river with it, which is the Skagit River, I believe is how it's pronounced, from overflowing. And they show like these beams that are there to support it. Still, restaurants and businesses are having to put sandbags out in front of their stores. And she says it has led to the forced evacuations of more than 100,000 residents. Moving on to some of the more in-depth stories that the UNN team and I have been working on for you guys this week. We're going to start with a story about penny shortages in the U.S. So Americans are starting to see their cash totals rounded up or down because the U.S. has effectively begun phasing out the penny. But here's the problem. There is no clear plan to replace it or to help during this transitional period. After the U.S. Mint stopped producing pennies in early 2025 and the Federal Reserve quietly cut off most penny distribution points, shortages have hit parts of the country, forcing retailers to round cash transactions to the nearest nickel. That has created legal and financial headaches for stores, banks, employers, and even SNAP recipients, with many businesses rounding down to avoid lawsuits and losing money on already thin margins.
Kroger's, Love's, even McDonald's warning customers about America's growing penny problem. The fast food giant saying in a statement, McDonald's locations in certain pockets of the country may round up or down to the nearest 5 cents if a customer does not have exact change. The company saying the changes will not impact card or cashless payments, adding McDonald's has a team actively working on long-term solutions to keep things simple and fair for customers. Over the weekend, Giant Eagle supermarkets inviting penny hoarders to trade their stash for a gift card twice the value.
A bipartisan bill in Congress aims to set nationwide rounding rules, but it has stalled. Surprise, surprise. Leaving consumers and retailers stuck navigating a confusing patchwork of laws and workarounds while the penny slowly fades from everyday life. Facial recognition technology is rapidly spreading across the UK, from police vans and fixed street cameras to retail stores, even as the country lacks a dedicated law governing how the technology is used or how biometric data is protected. Police use of live facial recognition has surged in recent years, scanning millions of faces in public spaces, including children, often without clear public awareness, raising concerns about privacy, fairness, and the risk of routine mass surveillance.
Mass biometric surveillance technology. The way that it works in the UK is that police forces will have labelled CCTV vans with cameras on top, and then every single person who walks past that camera will have a biometric map made of their face, and that scan will be checked against a watch list of, in some cases, thousands and thousands of people. But it's really important to note that this isn't just made up of criminals. They're incredibly broad. There's been a massive proliferation of the use of live facial recognition up and down the UK. A lot of people say that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But we would say that everyone has something to fear from the unchecked rollout of live biometric surveillance. If we can be identified, tracked, monitored wherever we go, the right to privacy is kind of dead.
At the same time, retailers are adopting similar systems to combat rising shoplifting, but critics warn misidentifications can leave innocent people wrongly accused or barred. With oversight relying on outdated data protection rules rather than clear national standards, campaigners argue the technology is expanding faster than legal safeguards, leaving significant gaps in transparency, accountability, and individual rights. Now, real quickly, before we move on to the next story, I just want to briefly address this because we cover stories that are happening in the media. But when it comes to things that can be scary, like facial recognition. We don't want to dwell on this. It's like we're cognizant of it happening perhaps in certain parts, but we're living in a very interesting time right now because just because some of this stuff is out there doesn't mean it's going to stick, and it doesn't mean that you personally have to experience that. And this all has to do with quantum mechanics. And without going into, the in depth of how all of this works, which I'm not even the person to tell you how it all works, but I do know that what you focus on is what you bring into your reality. So be aware that these stories are out there, but do not dwell on it. Do not let it ruin your day. Do not fret about it. Now that you're aware of it, let it go. All right, moving on. We're talking about human waste, which is kind of how I feel about facial recognition technology. It's kind of an interesting transition right there. All right, just kidding. Human waste is increasingly being reimagined as a valuable resource rather than just something to flush away, with new technologies turning sewage into energy, fertilizer, and even cleaner fuels.
Ever wonder how poop can power a school? IDRF's unique project in Uganda is turning human poop, poop, into clean energy. This is how it's done. The waste is stored in an oxygen-free concrete dome, which uses bacteria to break down the fecal matter into clean biogas. The gas is then piped into the school kitchen, creating a safe and reliable source of energy. Sustainable, scalable, and community-led, projects like this can be implemented around the world, transforming waste into a powerful tool for change.
Projects around the world are using anaerobic digestion to convert waste into biogas and green methanol, offering a potential energy source for communities while recycling nutrients back into agriculture through treated biosolids. But some of these benefits come with real concerns, including methane leaks, high costs, and the risk of contaminants like forever chemicals and heavy metals entering soil and food systems. On top of that, outdated laws and permitting systems weren't designed for poop-to-power innovation, leaving many utilities stuck in a regulatory gray area that slows progress and limits how far these solutions can scale. Colombia has emerged as a major hub in the global adult webcam industry, a multi-billion-dollar business that promises opportunity but often delivers exploitation. For many women facing poverty, informal work, and limited job options, webcam studios can seem like one of the few ways to earn a living. But investigations reveal a far darker reality in some operations, including coercion, confinement, sexual violence, and forced on-camera acts.
Imagine you go to work every day, spending up to 18 hours on camera in a cubicle not even big enough to stretch out your arms. There's little privacy, bad ventilation, and the cubicle probably hasn't been cleaned since the last worker's shift. You are in one of several cubicles in the webcam studio, which broadcasts performances on adult platforms for viewers around the world. There are thousands of similar studios. The webcam platform keeps 50 to 65% of what viewers pay to watch you. Then the studio keeps up to 70% of what's left over.
Reports from journalists and human rights groups show these abuses are not isolated, but part of a broader system enabled by weak oversight, economic vulnerability, and powerful streaming platforms that profit while doing little to monitor working conditions. As a result, what begins as a perceived path to independence can become a cycle of trauma and control, with calls growing louder for stronger labor protections, transparency, and accountability across the industry. Grade inflation at Ivy League schools, especially Harvard, is raising serious questions about what grades actually mean, as average GPAs climb toward perfection while student engagement and deep learning appear to decline. That doesn't make sense. Driven by misaligned incentives, including student evaluations, institutional prestige, and post-pandemic disengagement, easy grading has become normalized, rewarding appearance over effort and short-term performance over real understanding.
Doesn't everyone at Harvard deserve an A- or an A? They made it into Harvard, right?
Okay.
Same with Stanford.
Yes. So I actually have data on this because that's what our dean told us, not with a whole lot of conviction, when we had a meeting about grade inflation. And she said, well, we like to think of it as grade compression. Maybe students are just getting better and better and better. And I just know that that's not true, because I have records from performance on my multiple choice test in my intro psych course, which I've taught for more than 20 years. And so it's pretty constant year to year, and there's no subjective sliding grade. And the performance has gone down. So students are not doing as well as they used to.
I like that guy. Kind of wish he was one of my professors when I was in college. Even beyond the Ivy League, traditional A through F grading often prioritizes point chasing and memorization. It fuels stress and reveals little about what students truly know. In response, a growing number of schools are experimenting with alternatives like narrative evaluations, mastery-based learning, pass-fail systems, and portfolios, shifting the focus from polished transcripts to meaningful learning and long-term intellectual growth. Remittances to Mexico, a vital source of income for millions of families, have slowed sharply throughout 2025 after peaking in 2024, with declines driven by factors such as aging U.S.-based migrants, fear amongst undocumented workers, and reduced transfers from other nationalities. The drop is hitting households in southern and central states particularly hard, forcing more family members to seek work, often in the informal economy.
The remittances are very important. They sustain our family, fund the construction of our house, and allow us to establish a business, so that when he comes home, we have more stability than when he left. He used to send at least $600, $800 if he had a good month. But now I'm getting $400 a month. That's just enough to live on. All our other projects are on hold.
Adding to the strain, a new U.S. policy taking effect in January 2026 will impose a 1% tax on cash remittances, prompting Mexico and major retailers to promote electronic transfers or direct purchases as workarounds. For families who rely on these funds for essentials, even small reductions matter, creating a perfect storm of financial pressure with uncertain long-term effects on households and the local economy. Indigenous Greenlandic parents in Denmark have long faced parental competency tests that disproportionately label them as unfit, using Western-based assessments that fail to account for their language, culture, or parental traditions. This is an incredible story, you guys. When the team and I started working on this, we're like, is this even real? How is this even allowed? It's actually quite incredible. These flawed evaluations have contributed to significantly higher rates of child removals among Greenlandic families, with children often placed far from their communities and cultural roots. In May 2025, the Danish government banned these tests for Greenlandic parents, obviously a step in the right direction. It shifted evaluations to a specialized unit with cultural and linguistic expertise. But here's the problem. Progress has been slow, with few cases reviewed and no children yet returned. While the decision marks an important step toward addressing systemic discrimination, many families continue to fight for their children, highlighting the enduring impacts of colonial practices and bias within supposedly fair child welfare systems. Home inspections are a critical safeguard for buyers, revealing hidden issues in a property's structure, systems, and safety that could become costly problems later. Their effectiveness, however, depends on the skill and independence of the inspector, with qualifications varying widely across North America, and some inspectors missing serious defects due to inexperience or rushed evaluations.
I only get frustrated when I see a report where every tiny drywall crack is documented, but the one seriously major structural flaw in the house gets overlooked. That's unacceptable. And this is why you want to be picky about inspectors. You want someone knowledgeable because you might be able to glean just a little more advice from them. And an inspector with construction experience will always be able to tell you a bit more, even if they have to cut it short somewhere for legal reasons.
The process can be further compromised when real estate agents steer buyers toward lenient inspectors or restrict access to parts of the home to protect a sale, creating conflicts of interest that put buyers at financial risk. To truly benefit, buyers need qualified independent inspectors who can conduct thorough evaluations without interference, ensuring they know exactly what they are buying before committing to one of the largest investments of their lives. New Zealand is launching random oral fluid roadside drug testing to detect cannabis, methamphetamine, cocaine, and MDMA, aiming to reduce drug-related road deaths, which account for nearly a third of their fatalities. The rollout begins in Wellington in December and will expand nationwide by mid-2026, using a device for initial screening, followed by lab confirmation before fines or demerit points are applied. While the program allows police to stop any driver, critics warn the tests detect drug presence, not necessarily impairment, meaning sober drivers could test positive and impaired drivers could slip through.
We were concerned about two things: false positives, false negatives, and therefore people being sent off on their way despite being impaired, or indeed that the science just isn't really there generally, and that we needed to look at impairment testing as an alternative. I think there is always a sort of an urge to crack down on people who may be doing something bad, and therefore perhaps the decision making wasn't quite robust in this space.
With only about 50,000 tests planned annually, which is far fewer than alcohol breath tests historically used to curb drunk driving, the program's effectiveness as a deterrent remains uncertain, making it a real-world experiment in balancing road safety with fairness. Now it's time for some updates from the Global Intelligence Agency. Kim Gogan is the head of the GIA, and she comes on, she gives us some video reports sometimes. Sometimes they're little text messages that she puts out on our Telegram channel, which you can find. You can look for the CARE Telegram channel to get all the latest and greatest. This week has been a very busy week, and I don't need Kim to actually tell me that, although she did allude to that in some of these messages that I'm going to read for you guys in just a bit. But when you turn inward, and this is something that we always encourage you guys to do, because it is nice to get regular reports from Kim. But as we push harder and harder against the dark, they are going to push harder and harder against us, which means Kim and her team are working around the clock. And this week happened to be a week where she didn't get a chance to get out a video report. But I know things are changing because one of the things that I do is I turn inward and I do as much as I can to connect with source. And there has been a shift this week. Again, I don't need Kim to tell me that. I can tell just from how I personally feel, because I've been telling you guys for weeks that I've been going through some crazy stuff. You know, haven't had any energy, I would almost call it depression. I'm not a person that ever experiences depression, but just down on everything, and I try not to let that come out too much, to my family and people around me. But that's truly how I was feeling on the inside, and just lack of motivation. Like I said, we've been talking about this for weeks now on the rundown, right? And this week there was a switch. And it wasn't anything that personally happened in my life or, anything like that. There was an energetic switch this week. I can tell you that with 100% certainty. And I'm sure a lot of you guys experienced that as well. So personally, I'm doing better. I'm hoping that you guys are doing better as well. But Kim did release a couple of statements that I want to read for you guys. The first one came on Monday, and then the second one was on Friday. So here's Monday's statement. She said, "It's definitely been a very busy few days as we continue to push through the remnants of the matrix control. The backlash from the machine has been very real over the last few days for many, mind, body, and soul." That's what we were just talking about. "Things are going well. However, the machine and the deep state have been fighting against us every step of the way. I will give a full update on Wednesday," which ended up being on Friday. "We are aware of the shooting in Australia. That was a big story this week. And what they wanted to achieve in Bondi Beach didn't and won't happen. Some of it was staged for this day in particular, although some of the casualties were real. This will not last too much longer. hold the light of source. Okay, again, that was Monday's statement. She didn't actually end up putting out a report on Wednesday as she intended to, but she did release another statement on Friday, which is yesterday, as of the time of this recording. And here's what she said. Good evening, everyone. As I had stated in the last report, once I start this process, I cannot stop until it's done. I have been working with an hour here and there of sleep when needed. The process is going well, and Earth and its inhabitants are getting close to the completion of your gateways to source. Once this is done, all current flow shall begin in its fullness, in full harmony and rhythm of source. I hope to complete the process tonight by tomorrow morning, my time, which would have been this morning, our time in the U.S. This machine and its deep state friends have not made it easy in any way. On the regular news front, behind the scenes, the governments have finally realized stablecoin and its crypto program are not going to work. However, they are hoping for a Hail Mary on New Year's Eve. I need just a little more time before I can publicly give you the rest of the info. Okay, so those are the statements that we have this week from Kim. Again, no video updates this week. But something else, and again, this is me commentating, I guess, a little bit or sharing some things that have come to my attention over this week. Kim is going through a lot right now, and especially, you've got all this stuff going on with the Matrix, but something else that I want to bring your attention to is the winter solstice, okay? So as I'm recording this, it's December 20th. Officially on our calendars, December 21st is the winter solstice, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, right? So this is a time where we in the Northern Hemisphere have the most dark and the least amount of light. Now, you may think, oh, that's just how much light is on your planet. It's actually energetic as well. So anything of the dark, not just the deep state, because a lot of this was over their heads, would try to do a lot of nefarious stuff during this time. And it's not actually just on the day that our calendar says it's solstice time, because they back it up a lot of time before solstice. It's like they're gearing up for it, and they extend it out as well. So we're talking about a pretty good chunk of change here, chunk of time, where they are planning a lot of crazy stuff. And they're losing their matrix. So I can only imagine what's going on right now. So when we say hold the light, I know a lot of us are like, oh, hold the light. We've been holding the light forever. And I get it. And I'm right there with you guys. But it is always darkest before the dawn. And that is where we are at. I can feel it in my bones. So the best thing for us to do right now is to do the things that make you the happiest. Spend time with your family. Hang out with people you care about. Go to fun community activities, right? This is a great time of year to do all that kind of stuff. And just be in the present, be in the now, and have fun. Bring as much joy as possible through those things. And if you are having a really hard time, we always talk about grounding. And I don't know, here in California, I can go out there. There's no snow on the ground. It's actually kind of warm. I know not everybody can do that. Another great thing, if you can't get outside to do some grounding, is to get in a warm bath, because water is another great way to connect with the planet. I know a lot of us are celebrating various holidays over the next week or so. So be safe, have fun, connect with Source as much as possible. And I just really appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for making it a wonderful year. 2026 is even better. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.